DARPA and Northrop Grumman just unveiled a new X-plane that they want to rush into service to meet what they call a quote urgent operational need. And while they didn't disclose what that need is, I've got my suspicions. So let's talk about the XRQ-73 SHEPARD, which is short for Series Hybrid Electric Propulsion Aircraft Demonstrator, because while that may be a mouthful, the technology crammed into this exotic flying wing may just represent the future of intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance aircraft. Now, as we've discussed lots of times in the past, despite the prevalence of spy satellites today, the US military is still very reliant on intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance, or ISR, aircraft. And all throughout the global war on terror, Uncle Sam invested heavily into fielding entire fleets of new ISR platforms, like the MQ-9 Reaper. But that poses a real problem, because these aircraft were designed to operate in the uncontested airspaces over nations like Iraq or Afghanistan, making them very juicy targets for really any adversary with any kind of air defense capabilities to speak of. And we've seen the repercussions of this already, with the US losing at least 3 MQ-9 Reapers in the vicinity of Yemen over just the past 18 months or so. And now Russia claiming to have shot down an RQ-4 Global Hawk over the Black Sea just yesterday. Though to be clear, those claims have yet to be substantiated. The plain truth of the matter is, the US now has a pressing need to field more survivable ISR aircraft, to maintain that same high degree of situational awareness the US military is accustomed to having, even when fighting against much more capable adversaries. And that is where platforms like the XRQ-73 come in. Now, this platform was based on the previous XRQ-72A Great Horned Owl, which was revealed to the world back in 2020 in a feature published by the Warzone. Now, this aircraft had a unique hybrid electric propulsion system that powered 4 ducted fans that it used for propulsion at the back, effectively replacing the turbofan engines you would usually find tucked away in the fuselage of a stealth aircraft like this, with electric generators that power electric motors. And that could make these aircraft stealthier than any other ISR platform in the world, because not only does it leverage that radar-wicking planeform, very similar to another Northrop Grumman platform that we often call the RQ-180, but it also would have next to no thermal signature, as those electric motors would produce so much less heat than a turbofan engine might that most thermal targeting systems probably wouldn't even notice it. And that means you've got a spy plane that's not only exceedingly difficult to detect, track, or target on radar, but also is next to impossible to target with infrared-guided or heat-seeking missiles. And that's just the beginning of the benefits of this hybrid propulsion system, because it would also mean all but eliminating the acoustic signature of this aircraft when flying in its stealthiest profile, meaning you wouldn't even hear an aircraft flying in the sky above you if this thing was overhead. And on top of all that, this hybrid combustion to electric system could offer a huge increase in operational range and endurance, meaning this aircraft could potentially stay airborne for even longer than the ISR platforms we have in service today, with aircraft like the MQ-9 already flying missions that exceed 24 hours in duration. Now, DARPA wasn't very forthcoming with details about this new aircraft, but they did say that it's classified as a Group 3 UAS, or Unmanned Aerial System, but that doesn't narrow it down all that much. Group 3 platforms are characterized by aircraft that can fly at altitudes of between 3,500 and 180,000 feet. They weigh in at between 55 and 1,320 pounds, and they can fly at speeds of between 100 and 250 knots, or around 115 to 290 miles per hour. But they did also disclose that this aircraft's overall weight, including mission systems, is at right around 1,250 pounds, the top end of this classification. And we can use that figure to extrapolate what its wingspan might be, because, as I said before, this aircraft was based on the XRQ-72A, which weighed under 400 pounds and had a wingspan of about 30 feet. Now, if the relationship between weight and wingspan were linear, that would mean this aircraft could have a wingspan as large as 90 feet, which is about the size of 3 F-16s sitting side by side. But weight is a measure of volume, which does not not increase in a linear way, so instead it's more likely that its wingspan is in the neighborhood of around 44 feet, or just a bit bigger than an F-15 Eagle. But as groundbreaking as this Shepard spy plane could truly be, by now you might be thinking, wait a minute, X-planes aren't supposed to just be funneled into production programs, they're supposed to be technology demonstrators, showing the viability of emerging technologies that are usually not ready for the battlefield yet. And you'd be right, but that's also a focus of this program. As DARPA disclosed back in 2021, they see this XRQ-73 program as a, quote, bridge across technology's valley of death. That valley being the gap between technologies they can demonstrate in single prototypes and technology demonstrators, and technologies that are mature and robust enough to be used on the battlefield. They're hoping that the methodology they've used to mature from the XRQ-72A to now the XRQ-73 could be replicated in future programs to shorten that gap between emerging technologies and battlefield capabilities. Though to be clear, that doesn't necessarily mean the XRQ-73 itself will enter operational service, though that's certainly possible. It could also be a similar platform that uses the same hybrid electric propulsion system matured through XRQ-73 testing. And when I say they're moving fast, I mean it. According to DARPA's press release, they intend to start test flights of this aircraft before the end of this year.